Thank you very much, Ez. And it's always a pleasure to speak at a digital health forum. Skipped a couple of slides. No, I haven't. So you'd agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, that nothing screams evolution like dermatology, right? It's a beautiful time to be in this field. So many different advancements happening. We started from clinical dermatology, humble abodes for a few, then interventional dermatology. Then we had lasers coming in. We now have injectables, skin boosters, exosomes, you name it, and we have it in dermatology. And we have dermoscopy somewhere stuck in the middle. What is the future of dermatology? On a lighter note, we'll probably in a few years take our fractional resurfacing lasers and hit the craters of the moon, but that's not why I'm here to talk to you. And evolution from a social media standpoint means a totally different thing, but more on that in the next session. That's a highly awaited session, I'm sure, on social media. What we're trying to do is integrate everything into something known as mHealth. We're integrating all the data possible into a blockchain or a ledger which everybody can see transparently. So if your patient has gone to an endocrinologist, you'll be able to see her blood work or hormonal profile in one single place. And that's where wearables come into the, I think my slides are a little skewed. But that's where wearables come into play, where we're trying to integrate data that we receive from wearables from different walks of life and different body areas into a single platform called mHealth. So to define wearables, these are specialized devices which have specialized sensors with a mini computer, and they're scaled small enough for us to be worn. There are various types of wearables which I'll classify in the next slide. They have the ability to measure a certain aspect, a physical parameter, and can provide input to the user as well as to the physician. And this forms the spectrum of the Internet of Things, where you have a lot of information which can be linked seamlessly with each other. So you have passive data inputs, which are then collected, then they're analyzed and validated, because nothing works without validation. And then these active data inputs are transferred to either the HCP or users for their own consumption. So the wearable electronic devices that you have could be hand-worn. All of us are looking at smartwatches. The Ultra 2 is out if anybody's interested. But how many of you ask your patients about their sleep patterns, especially the ones who come to you with psoriasis and atopic dermatitis and itchy conditions like urticaria? So patients sometimes come and tell us, I've got 50% deep sleep. We've learned all this, at least I have in my practice, from patients who come to me. They'll tell me, okay, this is my sleep pattern, and sleep-wise I'm fine. I got up in the middle of the night to itch, and my phone's recorded that, or my smartwatch has recorded that. That's the simplest example of how a wearable can change practice. They can be wrist-worn. You have rings like Aura Ultra Human. Now I'm sure everybody's aware. You have head-worn smart glasses. They were a commercial failure, but they're being reinvented in the field of not only dermatology, but plastic surgery to be specific. Then you have head-up displays that can be worn. You have body-worn devices, which are smart textiles. I'm going to speak a little bit about that. You have wearable patches, and you have foot and arm wear, which can be used. Even something like a blood pressure monitor, it's a wearable in the end, something which is attached to the cuff or to the wrist. So let's start with a few examples of wearables. We have a skin pH tracker, and you'll ask me, okay, skin pH is 5.5. What's the big deal? Why do we need each individual person's pH? Because this pH reading can give you a lot of insights into conditions like, I think there's something wrong with my font. Okay, so essentially what this slide says is that these have microfluidic technologies which can collect information from sweat. So from that pH, you can actually track electrolytes, you can track cytokines which are present on the skin surface, and you can essentially collate this data into a platform which can be read. So you can actually customize treatments based on skin pH, based on skin cytokine profiles, and thereof. Again, Google Glasses were a commercial failure. Can I do something to change this? Okay, anyways, I think it's only in the couple of slides, hopefully. So Google Glasses were a commercial failure. They were launched in 2013. But if anybody is following the Ray-Ban chain, they're very smart metas which have come back. How would we use it in clinical practice? So imagine you're going through you're operating in the OT, and you don't want any intrusion. This is something which can be worn. Obviously, informed consent is something which will have to be taken. But you can do a peri-operative photography or videography of the entire procedure. You can demonstrate MOS. This could be used in a teaching setting or a teachable moment like conferences, or just to gather data from what you've done during the surgery for personal consumption as well. You can do lesional photography, histopathological photography, telemedicine is possible, education, research, and consultations as well. Also, in a clinical setting, if patients permit, you can record photographs without being intrusive, without a break in the consultation, and they can be taken by the wink of an eye. With the Ray-Ban Metas, you can just wink or nod your head once and you can take a photograph. So that's the power of wearables, which we will leverage in times to come. L'Oreal had patented a UV detecting patch, which can simply, based on the UV index of that area and how much radiation your skin is receiving, it can remind you in a haptic, visual, or audio format to reapply sunscreen. Very simplistic use of something so great in technology, but we can extrapolate things like these into anti-aging patches and even something like a wrinkle-busting mask, which would use microcurrent technology. There is work going on in this field where you have super miniaturized biosensors. Depending on the depth of the wrinkle and the photo aging scale, you can actually deliver the right amount of microcurrents to the skin. Obviously, we'll believe it once they start transmitting radio frequencies through that. That will be a game changer for us. But definitely, there's some work happening there. Hair masks, I think, when it comes to low-level light and laser therapy, that's a recently FDA-cleared modality for alopecia. It's still not FDA approved for efficacy. It's only a safe modality. But you can have automated tuned fluences which can be delivered through those diodes based on the grade of alopecia and the time duration that you set in that machine. So that's, again, the future that wearables hold. We have research on something known as the e-skin. By we, I mean global research, not my personal research. That can track heart rate, body temperature, blood sugar levels, and nerve signals. And it can be biofueled by sweat, which means it makes it a sustainable device. It doesn't need extra charging or a battery pack. It can simply work on the microcurrents generated from the skin, body movements, and sweat. So it can generate enough power to power for these sensors, and a Bluetooth device can then transmit this data from the wearable to a platform. So again, it may have a user interface in later stages, which could replace smartphones in the future. As of now, we're nowhere close to replacing them. But because it can collect a lot of biometric data, it can be used. And would you believe me if I told you that from e-skin, you can do electroencephalography, you can do electromyography, you can have blood pressure recordings, temperature recordings, glucose, lactate, pH, a full electrolyte panel, cytokine analysis, oximetry, hydration levels, echocardiography. All of these are reported by using a small 2x2 centimeter of a patch known as e-skin. Then you have something, I'm really sorry about the slides. This is part embarrassing. But the itch detector is again a smartwatch, which is one. It can tell us the scratch count, especially at night, and the intensity with which the scratch was done. So it's something which has been published. Again, the data is not very robust, but it's a variable which can be used to manage itchy conditions. So if you want to, let's say, use the UA7 scale for urticaria, or if you want to use a SCORAD for how much the patient itched at night, you can actually use these variables and integrate that data seamlessly. Okay, you also have wearable injections, and think of these as smart infusion pumps, where you can actually deliver small cannulas or ports into the skin, where you can deliver drugs. We don't use this in dermatology as of now, but a lot of microneedling patches which come, hormonal patches and pain patches, do use the same technology. If that can be automated, that will again be the future of a wearable for the skin. Again, continuous glucose monitor, CGMs, are the order of the day. There's a growing link between, obviously, we know the link between insulin resistance and chronic low-grade inflammation, which is characteristic of psoriasis and atopic dermatitis. And we also have studies now which show us that glucagon-like glucagon analogs, receptor analogs, can actually work in conditions like psoriasis. There are 12 randomized controlled trials, last I checked, on the use of semaglutide in psoriasis, which means there is some target there. So again, CGMs would be something we would use very often. And where I come from in India, we are the world leaders in type 2 diabetes. So it is a thing which it's a household thing in India, trust me. The most interesting variable that I'm going to tell you about today is the cosmetotextile. So for those of you who miss clinical dermatology, who miss wet wraps in atopic dermatitis and baths for psoriasis, this is your answer. A variable which can be coated with a drug. And the cosmetotextiles have been used since eternity. They've been mentioned in our old scriptures called the Vedas. Ayur Vastra is what it used to be called. Ayur means life in Hindi, in Sanskrit rather. So these are of Indian origin, and they mimic or share properties with a cosmeceutical, which means you have an active ingredient and API, an active pharmaceutical ingredient, with a microcapsule with fabric through which it passes. So the advantage is that you can, the advantage is that you can have a larger body surface area. You can have sustained release, which is better than throwing everything all at once. and then falling prey to metabolism. The end use could be moisturization, pigmentation, anti-wrinkle, aromatics, perfumes, and these are all studies. It's not something which I'm doing of my own volition. UV protection. The ingredients could be natural or woven. The fabric could be engineered. And why cosmetotextiles make sense? Because you're covering most of the body, most of the day. It's a unique opportunity for transferring cosmeceuticals or even active molecules like drugs for that matter. You can continuously release small doses, which we now understand, like I said, is better than a single application of a large amount. And like I said, life does come around a full circle for clinical dermatologists. So there are some advances in wearables in terms of microbiome where you can in real time measure the microbiome, the balance between good and bad bacteria, and you can personalize treatments accordingly. We are in the field now, or we are in an era where we talk about precision medicine and personalized medicine. This is the best way to personalize medicine by studying local cytokine profiles, by studying local pH, by studying local UV indices, monitoring the local skin microbiome, and then personalizing your treatments around it. Obviously, with so much data floating around, it has to be GDPR compliant for the EU and HIPAA for the US. We do need to ensure data security and compliance all around. Skin cancer detection, I think this is something which would excite Trilok. But wearable sensors which can continuously monitor a change or an evolution in a lesion. So that's again something which a wearable would be able to do. These can be integrated with electronic health record systems, with M-health systems, like I said at the beginning. And again, like I said, in furthering the cause of personalized treatments, local stress levels, local environmental factors, and skin responses or stress responses to various treatments. This is as close to measuring an exposome as you can get with a wearable. So that's again something where work is being done. Then, like I said, sustainability is the order of the day. So there are wearables which can use, I've said this, local microcurrents and skin sweat to be sustainable. I've already spoken to you about blockchain. You also have wearables which can mimic psoriatic arthritis and show patients when they should visit a physician for biologicals or immunosuppressants. And on a parting note, you have some unbearable or unwearable wearables. There have been reports of contact dermatitis, both irritant and allergic to hearing aids, watch-like wearables. This was to Fitbit, but one of the aftermarket straps, insulin pumps, and both types of CGMs. I'm going to end now with the future. Obviously, AI-driven wearables will be something where we can seamlessly integrate all the data that we've gathered here into an M-Health system. Deeper learning is the future. I'm sure you heard about it in the AI session in the morning. A time when where there can be unsupervised machine learning, deeper convolutional neural networks, and pattern recognition, which is what we use AI the most. And I honestly feel that precision medicine will be possible with wearables one day. So the time is now. Thank you very much for a patient hearing, and I'm sorry about the slides. Thank you.